Thanks, everybody. I want to recognize Mike and Davey for all the significant contributions they've made to the Nationals over the last many years. To win a World Series and to bring that joy and happiness to the Nationals community, the DC community, the organization is an incredible accomplishment, and they've devoted many years of their lives to the Nationals. And I learned a lot from working with Mike and Davey, and I'm appreciative of Riz for the opportunities. I want to thank the Lerner, Cohen, and Tannenbaum families for their confidence in me. I've known and worked with Mark Lerner for 14 years, and I'm excited to build on that relationship. Look, the fans are right to be frustrated. We're all frustrated. We have a lot of interesting, exciting young pieces to build on. We have a lot more we need to build. Simply stepping up our game is not enough. We need real change. I'm excited to bring a fresh approach, a fresh voice to this role, and integrate more data, more technology, more innovation into our decision making across the organization at all levels, and hopefully improve the performance of our players as well. We've got the draft starting on Sunday, and the trading deadline at the end of the month. The owners have empowered me with making the decisions in those areas, and I'm really excited to do so. I'm going to bring my own approach, my own philosophy, my own skill set to the role, and every aspect of what I do is going to be in the long-term interest of the Nationals, with the goal of building a perennial competitive team that can win a championship. And I know ownership shares that goal. So with that, I'll take your questions. I'm going to give my phone to Kyle because I have a rookie mistake where it's ringing. Miguel Cairo. We'll take that later.
Mike, with making changes to the approach and the draft being essentially 5 days away, can you, in that short time window, employ a different approach, or what's the balance there?
Well, the amateur scouting leadership has been working for a year to prepare for this, and I've been in the loop and following as well, and have my own opinions and work collaboratively with them. So they're very well prepared. They've been working hard for this moment, almost even before the last draft ended. And so I'll bring my own voice to that process, and I'll work collaboratively with them and take what they have to say and ultimately be responsible for making the picks.
To whatever extent you can share details about your conversation with Mark and with ownership about how they want to proceed here, how much do you feel like you have the authority to do things the way you want to do it and not feel like it's a continuation of what has been here before?
Yeah, they've said, with the draft, with the trade deadline, the two most, important kind of decisions and events we have in front of us, that it's my job to make those decisions. And of course, I'll be in consultation with them and work collaboratively with our staff. But I'll be empowered with making those decisions, and I feel prepared and excited to do so.
You talk about the long-term vision. Where do you see as the biggest area or need for change within the organization?
Just taking the position 2 days ago. I don't want to. I think there's a lot more of an ability to use data and technology and innovation at every single level. Decision making as part of the player development process, as part of the evaluation process, as part of the medical process. So I'm going to bring that sort of philosophy and approach to the role, but too early for me to single out one specific area.
All that stuff takes financial commitment at some level in personnel and in technology. Have you had conversation? You're 2 days in, but have you had conversation about commitment to building this out?
Every conversation I've had with ownership is they want to build a winner, and they want to build a winner as soon as they can, and they're motivated. There are a lot of different ways to invest in the club, whether it's staffing, technology, players. There are all sorts of ways to do it. They have a lot of questions about the best way to do it, and they've been asking a lot of good questions, and I can sense a desire from them to get us back to a championship caliber club, and it's of great importance to them.
You have a lot of areas of expertise within this organization. Which one are you most looking forward to sharing in this new role or bringing to this new role?
Coming from an analytics background and building up that department, I'm excited to try to leverage some of those, both analytics and also new technology throughout the organization. And really, we have a lot of great information, and I think there are ways it could be integrated more into all of our processes. And so I think I'd like to, lead that sort of transition and integrate that even further.
Like we talked about. Hi, I'm Katie. By the way, Katie, I'm the Cardinals beat writer, but since the Nationals don't have one, here I am. When you've talked a lot about data, analytics, technology, when you look at your player development system, is that an area where you would really like to emphasize those three things?
I'd like to emphasize it everywhere. Yeah, so not just in player development, the scouting process, player select, the amateur draft, international. I think there are more ways that we can leverage it, and I think there's a lot of interest in a variety of levels of those departments to use it more and to get more tools. And so I'm going to work hard to make that possible.
Would it be fair to categorize this as a modernization of the organization?
I mean, I would like to. I don't want to use that characterization necessarily. I want to make improvements, and yes, I think if more emphasis on technology and data is a modernization, then certainly that's what I'd like to do.
As you look at the performance of the big league team so far this year, what areas have you been satisfied with, and in what areas do you feel like there is real need for improvement?
Obviously, we've got some young players playing extraordinarily well. James Wood, Mackenzie Gore, CJ Abrams, and some others. That's been extremely encouraging to see. To have several young players playing at an all-star caliber level. I think we need to build and bolster the support around them and improve the consistency of play. Right? 5-6 weeks ago we were 2 games under 500. And now we've fallen further back. So these are very young players. Some of them haven't played a 162 game season before, and they're learning and they're growing together. And I think we want to, every single day, the emphasis is going to be building their skill set, getting them better. But we certainly, it's clear, from the results, we have a long way to go to sort of build up that consistency and build up the talent level to get to where we want to be, which is competing for a playoff spot every single year.
You talk about wanting to integrate a more data-driven message. For you, A, what are your relationships with the current coaching staff, and B, how confident are you that they are going to be able to implement that sort of message?
I think I have good relationships with the coaching staff. I think I have good relationships throughout the organization, and I've had a lot of great conversations, both over the course of the season, but even the last couple of days with some of our coaches about what we can do better, how we can leverage some of the tools that we have even more. So I've been very encouraged by those conversations.
The trade deadline is obviously looming. Everybody knows you traded Soto as a 4+ player. Mackenzie Gore is pitching great, and he's a 4+ player. Mm-hmm. Do you have to explore deals like that, even with people that are considered part of the core around here?
It's too early. I respect the question, Barry. It's too early for me to wade into that. Just 2 days into the role, sure. I need to have more conversations, with our staff, with ownership, and chart a path forward at the deadline. We're going to be really well prepared with whatever path we choose, but it's too early for me to go into that.
And just in past deadlines, were you in the room all the time? Was that part of the, just kind of describe your role in the past?
I've been heavily involved in the trade deadline process going back 10 or so years. I've negotiated several of the trades we've done on my own, with direction, with Riz's final decision, obviously, but negotiating. I played. I'm proud of the role I played in the Juan Soto trade and trying to identify some of the key players in that trade, and including James Wood, and negotiating, elements of that trade and strategizing around that trade for months in advance. So I've executed and been heavily involved with the trade deadline for 10 years.
When it came to the coaching staff, and I know this is all happening very fast, was there consideration to any other changes beyond the couple that we saw today with Bob Henley coming back and Henry moving up to bench coach?
Those two changes, Riz and Davey were so seismic. That's quite a bit of change, and we haven't gotten into anything more than that. That's quite a lot of change for now. So.
Kind of in the same vein, in the front office, have there been any other seismic shifts within the last 24, 48 hours or so?
No.
You spoke about how your team had been preparing for this year's draft since basically last year's day one of the draft. In spite of these changes right now, can you talk about the preparedness that your team has there with the draft?
Yeah, so we've got the amateur scouting leadership is meeting. They've been meeting since earlier this week. I'm going to fly back first thing tomorrow morning and join those meetings. I've talked to Danny Haas, our vice president of amateur scouting, multiple times, in the last few days. Danny, Brad Ciolek, our senior director of amateur scouting, and Reed Dunn, our assistant director, have all been working hard on that. We've got draft analysts that are helping assist in that process too, Taylor Cho and Silas Morsink. So we've got a good team on it, and I'm excited to join those and continue those discussions.
Mike, this might seem like a silly question, but would you like this job long term?
I would be honored, and I care deeply about the Nationals. And everything in my life revolves around trying to build the Nationals into a consistent, perennial contender. And so I'm devoted to that. Of course, it's out of my hands, and I respect, whatever decision gets made. And I'm not, I've got enough on my plate between the draft and trade deadline, so it's not a concern of mine. But the answer to your question would be yes.
Along those lines, what have these last 48 hours been like for you? I'm sure there's the initial shock of getting the news and then everything that's happened since.
Yeah, very little sleep. Phone blowing up and having a hard to keep up. I mean, it's been, but it's been exciting and it's been rewarding. On first thing Monday, Sunday night addressed the team. First thing Monday, held a Zoom with all members of the baseball operations staff. And have just been meeting constantly with staff, players, sorting out, working with Miggy, and so it's been very busy. And at some point, get some rest. But it's been exciting, and I'm appreciative of the opportunity.
Have you had an opportunity to stop and think about what this means for you?
There's enough going on. I appreciate the question, but there's enough. There's too much going on, and maybe at some point down the line, but. There's just trying to hit the ground running and try to get things better as fast as we can.
To what degree can you share what your message to the team was when you met with them?
I'd rather not get into the stuff that I say to the players and in the clubhouse. I'd rather keep private, but I appreciate the question.
The same with the front office.
Yeah, I'll keep those. Front office. I'll keep those private. Sorry.
Since you are heading back to prepare for the draft, from what you're able to share, what would you say are your priorities this year when making picks?
For the draft?
Yeah.
It's an exciting time. There's several really talented players that are going to be in the mix for us. We have to decide how to strategize with our bonus pool money and what the player bonus pool demands are, and run through all those scenarios over the coming days. So it's there's a lot of talent there, and it's exciting for the organization that we're going to be able to bring in someone from that group, and we'll see if we can use dollars, strategically to bring in as many top prospects as we can. And I think it's going to benefit the long term of the organization.
I know Strasburg and Harper were before you got here, but in your sense of it, when does that decision is it made? Is it when you know you have whoever you want? Does it happen early in the week? Does it happen the last minute?
It really depends. It depends on the player pool. It depends on the bonus demands. So it can just vary so much. I don't want to kind of put any expectation on it. I think publicly the last few years it's happened probably later, but it really just sort of depends on each unique situation.
Mike, we know what the record's been in recent years, second most losses in the majors since 2020. But with you, as you said, good pieces on hand. I wonder what you see as the window for being when can fans expect that? Okay, yeah, we've got a team that could contend here.
Yeah, we're about halfway through the season, and again, just being in this particular, I've been working for the organization for 14 years, but just getting into this role for 2 days with half the season to go, and seeing how these guys sort of react over the second half of the season, how they play through a full season. I'm going to be evaluating that at every level. I think obviously the goal is to get to a team that's contending every single season, and that gives you the best chance to win a World Series. And like I said, I know ownership's committed to that goal also. But in terms of putting an exact timeline on it, I need more time to evaluate things.
Are there any roster moves today that you can share yet, or are there going to be any today?
The one we haven't announced them quite yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know who's been told.
Okay. All right.
You mentioned wanting to see changes in the current club and its performance. What makes Miguel the right person to lead the club in the interim, and could he be a factor in the future, perhaps in the managerial role beyond this season? I know it's very early for that one.
Yep. Yeah, he's a true professional. His work ethic is off the charts. His experience, both playing so many different positions, playing so many years for different teams, in so many different roles, front office, coaching. So he's going to bring a wealth of experience and energy to the team, and I'm excited to see that. I'm not going to comment on the managerial process at this time. Obviously, we think highly of Miguel, giving him that role, but can't comment further than that.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you.
Now I can get
Oh yeah.
We're open now. If
You're open.
Oh, okay.